Namaste and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all of our esteemed dignitaries. I am Kavya R. Chavali, and I welcome you all to the unveiling of the SILF Coffee Table book that is a unique compilation of India's topmost and emerging law firms practicing in different areas of specializations. The Coffee Table book showcases the areas of practice, the expertise, and the achievements of these law firms, and in fact, the names have also been listed in the alphabetical order. If I may also please add that the Coffee Table book, in fact, is the first of its kind anywhere in the world. So yes, today at this program, we're truly privileged to have the presence of our chief guest, Honorable Chief Justice of India, Shri N.V. Ramana, who has graciously agreed to join us here on this momentous occasion. So thank you very much, sir, for your presence with us this evening. We're also joined by the leading luminaries from the legal fraternity on the screen, in fact, with some of our distinguished dignitaries who will be addressing all our attendees during the program. So now to set the tone for the program, may I please request Dr. Lalit Bhasin, President, Society of Indian Law Firms, to please present the introductory remarks. Well, I must admit, I'm not really giving any introduction for Dr. Lalit Bhasin, as his name and his reputation is known throughout India and overseas in the legal and business circles. So with an enthusiastic smile and with all the energy, please help me welcome on the main screen, Dr. Lalit Bhasin.
Thank you, Kavya. The Honorable, the Chief Justice of India, Shri N.V. Ramana, Mr. K.K. Venugopal, the Attorney General of India, and the undisputed acknowledged leader of the Indian Bar, Mr. Fali S. Nariman, President Emeritus of the Bar Association of India, my fellow colleagues, office bearers of SILF, participants, and worthy speakers. SILF is India's only association of law firms. SILF and its members, through their consistent endeavors, have upheld social commitment and promoted the cultural, legal, and ethical values with a view to strengthen and foster the rule of law. Journey of SILF began in 2000 when it was inaugurated by the President of the International Bar Association in the distinguished presence of late Mr. Arun Jaitley and our own Mr. Fali S. Nariman. SILF has grown manifold, with law firms all over India making their presence felt. SILF has always been a forum for exchange of ideas and information, as also a medium for interaction with the government, the legislature, and the judiciary. It has received international recognition from global organizations like the International Bar Association, Union Internationale des Avocats, the Inter-Pacific Bar Association, the American Bar Association, Law Asia, and other similar organizations. After 2 decades of its existence, it was time that we launched this project of the Coffee Table book to bring member firms in one frame, giving special place of pride to young and emerging law firms together with the established and well-known law firms. The initiative has been taken collectively by SILF members with great zeal, enthusiasm, and commitment. The Coffee Table book has been compiled to provide an easy access to all members and the users. The Coffee Table book is an exclusive compendium of profiles of the member firms arranged alphabetically. It is a legal data bank, and all of you know, and I can say with daring certainty, that SILF represents a brilliant think tank of legal professionals, which is not there anywhere in the world. It is befitting and great honor for SILF members that the Honorable, the Chief Justice of India is releasing this book. We are grateful for the gracious presence also of Mr. K.K. Venugopal and Mr. Fali S. Nariman, who has also written a beautiful foreword for the book. We also take immense pride in sharing with the Honorable Chief Guest, that is the Honorable Chief Justice, and the dignitaries, that SILF's own building is now under completion, and by the end of this year, it would be functional. This building is in close proximity to the Supreme Court on Deen Dayal Upadhyay Marg, and we propose to set up a legal and policy research center in the building. The financial contribution has been made by our members very liberally, generously, and that is the result how this building has come up, and we are still in needs of funds to complete it, to make it a center of excellence so far as the legal learning and research is concerned. SILF is a member of Advocates for International Development, that is A for ID, which is a United Nations program. And it is also a part of trust law of Thomson Reuters for pro bono work for the NGOs. During COVID, our member firms have contributed significantly by way of giving back to the society as a part of our professional social responsibility. Joining me in recognizing the presence of the Honorable Chief Justice of India, the Attorney General of India, and Mr. Fali Nariman are the regional chairs and co-chairs of SILF and top functionaries of SILF. We have Mr. Jyoti Sagar, Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran, Ms. Zia Modi, Mr. Cyril Shroff, Mr. N.G. Khetan, Dr. Ravindran, and Neena Gupta. The person responsible for bringing out this beautiful coffee table book meticulously and aesthetically is Mr. Sanjay Sethi, who is present here today. Mr. Sethi, wave your hand, please. Friends, I welcome all of you, and particularly our Honorable Chief Guest, the Chief Justice of India, and Mr. Venugopal and Mr. Fali S. Nariman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for those riveting thoughts and also for sharing the context for this beautiful evening that's in store for all of those who are attending us, including our esteemed dignitaries. Now, ladies and gentlemen, while all the speakers who will be addressing the gathering today are such noteworthy stalwarts that just reading their profiles would be a program on its own, owing to their numerous achievements, or for that matter, their accomplishments, which is why, along with the agenda, the speaker profiles have also been shared with all of you for your reference. So while we gather their thoughts today, you can also please take a look at the agenda to know what's in store for the program this evening. So now to present the welcome remarks, may I please invite one of the dynamic names in the legal field who's widely known for her expertise and is one of India's foremost corporate lawyers. Ladies and gentlemen, Zia Modi, Senior Vice President, SILF, and co-founder and managing partner of AZB and Partners. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you very much. It is an honor, Chief Justice, to have you with us on this occasion and to be present for this coffee book table. Thank you so much. I don't think anybody in this audience doesn't know extremely how pressed you are for every precious minute. So we thank you. Thank you also, KK, for always being there for SILF. You never fail to give your time as well to us. And it's really wonderful to see you hold out all your support. Nothing needs to be said to Fali, who's literally our backbone. And, you know, as the leader of our bar, we gain great inspiration from him. It's a wonderful book, and thank you, Sanjay. It's really illustrative. I've just gone through it 5 minutes ago, and it's so pleasing to the eye. I think that the only thoughts very quickly that I would leave maybe this panel with, and maybe Chief Justice can think about how we as law firms could be of more assistance to our Supreme Court in any form or any program that you think we could add value. We all have litigation departments. I started as a junior counsel in the Bombay Bar for 10, 15 years before I switched to corporate. And so, you know, many of us know the pain points that the court has to put up with. And all of us on the ground also have some practical suggestions, especially as you can imagine the backlog. What are the practical pain points? So if there is something which you think would be useful for the court and for the Attorney General's office, for us to collaborate and work with you alongside, I don't think that any law firm would not be honored to do so. Open dialogue with SILF in whichever topic you think works. I think we're all here to offer our services, especially as Lalit says. We've also been doing a lot of pro bono work, especially during COVID. A lot of us have pet projects. Jyoti, I don't know if you will talk about it, but he is a passionate evangelist of plain writing in proper English. And that can't hurt when the court has to read 20,000 pleadings and on a weekend go through reams and reams of pleadings that could have been cut short. I think that all of us recognize as law firms, at least I do, that we are really judged by the elite practice within our law firms, which is litigation. You are really judged by the quality of your strategy, of your intellect, of your superiority between peers as to how good you are when you are in court. And all I can say is that, my father always used to leave me with the advice that you are an officer of the court in the beginning and you are an officer of court in the end. And nothing should change from that beginning to the end. So we want you to tell us whatever you think works. We are here to be trusted by you and do the right thing by the citizen. And this coffee book is just, I think, an occasion to thank you once again for all you've done for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for always sharing those dynamic words with us and for sharing your nuggets of insights with regard to the coffee table book. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I now request Mr. Jyoti Sagar, Associate President, SILF, and Chairperson, J. Sagar and Associates, one of India's topmost law firms recognized globally. And I request him to please share his valuable words with us.
Unmute. Unmute.
Honorable Shri N.V. Ramanna, the Chief Justice of India, Shri K.K. Venugopal, Attorney General of India, Shri Fali Nariman, President Emeritus, the Bar Association of India, Shri Lalit Bhasin, President of SILF, friends, ladies and gentlemen. This is indeed a special evening, a fantastic milestone for Indian law firms. The publication of this volume showcasing Indian law firms is the brilliant idea of our President, Shri Lalit Bhasin, and he has, as always, ensured its immaculate execution. This is also a moment to reflect. In India, practice of law in a law firm environment is relatively nascent. Law firms largely serve business clients, and thus the growth and spread of law firms is inherently linked to the state of the economy and sentiments and perception of businesses. Going back 50 years, with a few exceptions, law firms were based in the premier business hubs of Bombay and Calcutta. Amongst the members of SILF, there are distinguished legacy firms which have been there for over 100 years. But the capacity and capability built up in Indian law firms started only post-1991 economic liberalization. Most of the significant areas of corporate practice came about thereafter, and these include mergers and acquisitions, public and private equity markets, infrastructure projects, regulatory affairs, financing, antitrust, and so on. And also the geographical spread, with several law firms emerging in Delhi, Bengaluru, Chennai, and other tier 1 cities. While we have progressed, but there remain challenges in provision of legal services to businesses in an emerging economy. Relative to the size of our economy, the demand for corporate law services is limited. Largely, all of us law firms serve a very thin layer of top Indian corporations, and I may just refer to it as India Inc. On the other hand, a vast segment of small businesses and unorganized sector, which one may describe as India Un-Inc., does not significantly access corporate legal services. Our experience in the trenches suggests that many in India Un-Inc. would rather take breach of contract as a cost of doing business than seek legal advice at the time of entering into a contract or enforcing it later in uncertain, long-drawn legal proceedings. They manage the risk by relying on trust and end up limiting their own market access. Efficient enforcement of contracts in the domestic market is one side of the coin, and India Un-Inc.'s desire to seek corporate and advisory services is the other side of that coin. Not surprising that we do not have significant presence of law firms which serve MSME clients or smaller businesses in tier 2 or tier 3 cities. Access to good quality legal service and efficient enforcement mechanism will reduce inefficiencies and hidden costs in the economy. Studies indicate that efficient dispute resolution mechanisms can contribute overall to as much as 1% to GDP growth rate. Zia has already placed some thoughts on improving the dispute resolution mechanisms and SILF's resolve to assist in whichever way it can. The systemic issues with our dispute resolution process have interesting unintended consequences for businesses and legal service providers. Strategies to differentiate and segment the market would serve Indian corporate lawyers and law firms well. Providing economic and efficient services to India Un-Inc. is a large challenge, but also a great opportunity. At the other end, serving of India Inc. and even beyond the shores of India, we have also some way to go. Size and scale is important. We've had constraints such as, until very recently, a limitation of 20 partners. We cannot still practice as an LLP, and the 19th century rules shackle activities like maintaining a vibrant website and undertaking dissemination of information and marketing activities. Compare that to law firms in more developed jurisdictions. A large number of these firms are with 4,000 or more lawyers, with many over 1,000 partners and $2 billion plus revenues. Several of SILF members are already investing in technology, training, talent management, information systems, and emerging areas of specialization and service standards. They are becoming professional in their outlook and preparing themselves for the challenges that lie ahead for servicing domestic and global markets. And moments such as the release of this volume gives all of us the courage and belief to continue with the good work that has been done by SILF members over the last several years, with the hope that we will make a difference. I close by wishing all of you very good health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your inspiring words with us all, along with all the initiatives taken up by the SILF and the members of SILF as well. Thank you once again, sir. And as you can all notice, dear attendees, that we're using technology in order to connect with each other this evening. So while it's an evening wherein we've also created a very crisp agenda with our thought leaders sharing their thoughts with us, it's also an evening wherein we come together for the unveiling of the coffee table book. So on that energetic note and on that wonderful note, let's also move on to hearing from one of the leading corporate lawyers, who's also the chair SILF for the Western region and a very enterprising managing partner of Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. We have with us none other than Mr. Cyril Shroff to please share his words with the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Respected Chief Justice, Mr. K.K. Venugopal, Mr. Fali Nariman, heroes of our profession, friends from SILF, elders and colleagues. It's a pleasure to be here. So SILF and its members over the last 25, 30 years, as Jyoti said, since 1991, have, I believe, dramatically modernized the legal profession. We still have a way to go, but we have dramatically modernized it from where we started. But now it's about the next 25 to 30 years, and we need to think about what are the challenges that lie ahead. In my view, well, there are many, the three biggest challenges and mega trends as I see it, and I believe will come to bear, are one, global trends, and within that there are a few sub-themes. Firstly, the all-pervasive rise of technology. It has already entered almost every facet of our life. It has entered in a big way in the delivery of legal services. It will enter the dispensation of justice and almost every aspect of our life. Then the impact of geopolitics. I think there is at least one school of thought that the West is in decline and China is on the rise. And within a decade or so, China will become the dominant economy in the world. A lot of our concepts of justice and fairness are rooted in common law and essentially Western concepts. What the next 10 to 20 years will mean with China as the dominant power in the world is something which we need to think about. Where China met the common law in Hong Kong, we know what happened and we want to see how that's going to evolve and whether there is a role for India to be a counterbalance and to stand out and sort of make its presence felt in terms of keeping the balance. Another major global trend, I think, will be climate change. We are seeing the effects of where nature crossed its boundaries in the last sort of 18 months. This is not the last pandemic we will face in the next 100 years. With the global ice melting, there will be many more new viruses, and we see how that's going to shape out. So this is one trend. The second trend, I believe, will be the role of institutions. And within that, I have a couple of points. I think not only the rule of law, but the role of law itself, I think is going to be a matter which is going to be, I believe, reinvented. With the increase in the importance and the power of the state, I think this is going to be called in question repeatedly, especially in the background of the rise of technology. I think the boundary lines of ethics, I think, are also going to be rewritten, whether it's in our own profession or whether we are a professional business. I think we are both, but where do we draw the boundary line is going to be one question. What about the ethics of artificial intelligence, of health services, of just about everything where there is change? So these boundary lines will not only be drawn, but will have to be, they will constantly change, and the law will have to find the right answers. Linked with that is the question of access to justice. I think the entire system is trying its best, but we always seem to struggle in comparison with the task ahead. So this is the second mega trend. The third one, I think, and we're feeling it already, even the very fact of how we're holding this conference, is about the nature of work. John Maynard Keynes, about 90 years ago, said that human beings will at some point of time will not need to work more than 3 hours a week. But as we find today, a lot of us are putting in 80 and 90 hours a week. And his explanation for that is that we've managed to create a lot of nonsensical jobs. Now, whether that is true or not, the fact is that the nature of the social contract and the manner of the nature of the work itself, with the whole idea of work from home or the gig economy, I think is going to change the very nature of the connection between a human being and the organization for whom he works. There is a recent UK Law Society study which says that in 2030, just 9 years from now, 85% of the jobs that will be dominant then have not even been created as of today. So we still don't know what those 85% jobs are, or at least they don't exist today. How this is all going to play out and how legal services and firms like ours are going to deal with this is a question that we will have to grapple with. So I think the next 25 years is call for a dialogue in society. And this has to be a multi-partite conversation between the bar, the bench, law firms, civil society, and free-thinking intellectuals, can we move society to a level of anti-fragility and not just robustness? I think is a challenge. And I think, as Mr. Lalit Bhasin said in the beginning, that SILF is an incredible think tank which can bring points of view, can do the research, and actually assist the court and civil society in finding the right answers. So I think there is a huge role for us to play. And I can just imagine 25 years from now, when we are releasing the 50-year book, what we will be talking about, and what we would have to show for what we did in the 25 years that just preceded that. So thank you very much for the honor for letting me address this audience. And I look forward to the rest of the conversation on this fascinating inflection point in our journey and in society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, indeed, for sharing those interesting mega trends and also leaving us with a lot of points to ponder about. Thank you once again, sir. And on that note, as we march ahead, ladies and gentlemen, I'd now like to invite the senior partner of Khaitan & Co., one of the largest law firms in India. We have with us Mr. N.G. Khaitan, who's also the co-chair SILF Eastern Region. May I please invite you, sir, to please address the gathering.
Honorable Shri N.V. Ramanna, the Chief Justice of India, Shri K.K. Venugopal, Attorney General of India, Shri Fali Nariman, President Emeritus, Bar Association of India. I would like to transgress a little from what my other earlier speakers spoke about. Recently, I had a chance to come across a very old book written by the Honorable Mr. Justice Shankar Prasad Mitra, the former Chief Justice of the Calcutta High Court, on the history of solicitors in Calcutta. I quote, "The Supreme Court in Calcutta was established in 1774, and thereafter two more Supreme Courts were established in Madras in 1801 and in Bombay in 1823. Hariher Seth, in his Prachin Kalikata Parichay, has said that at the initial stage, the litigants themselves used to carry on legal proceedings personally and to address the court themselves. From 1973, the cases used to be conducted by lawyers. The establishment of Supreme Court brought recognition, wealth, and prestige to the legal profession and brought a steady flow of well-trained barristers and solicitors to Calcutta, who were mostly from England. By the Indian High Court Act of 1861, provisions were made to create High Court in different provinces in India and to abolish Supreme Court. As a result, the Calcutta High Court was established in 1862 as the first High Court of India. In 1846, the Legal Practitioners Act was promulgated, conferring right to practice in Supreme Court for the first time to native Indians. At first, students were enrolled and used to work as an article clerk for a period of 5 years and subsequently reduced to 3 years under a practicing attorney. They were not required to attend any university, and the examinations were conducted by the Calcutta High Court and thereafter by the Bombay High Court. Interestingly, attorneys were automatically enrolled as an advocate on record of the Honorable Supreme Court without giving any examination. The attorneyship examinations were introduced in Calcutta in the year 18th of July 1849, which was subsequently introduced also in Mumbai. This examination was abolished in 1977, and prior to its abolition, only attorneys could be partners in the firm of solicitors. Fees for the barristers at Calcutta till few years back were charged on the basis of gold mohair, which was calculated at the rate of 17 rupees per gold mohair. Before and even after independence, the law firms were mostly confined to the cities of Calcutta and Mumbai, and along with the development and growth of Indian economy, the law firms were established in other metropolitan cities. Lately, I have observed that the flavor of legal profession is now more with girls than boys. As of now, we have over 500 law firms operating in Calcutta. I joined Khaitan & Company as an article clerk in 1970 and have almost completed 50 years in this profession. As an article clerk, I was allowed to wear a black coat and I could appear before a master and before the honorable judges only for the purpose of mentioning the matter, which took away our fear psychosis to appear before the honorable judges when we were enrolled as an attorney. In my career, I have seen and observed that the clients develop a great affinity with their lawyers, and with the passage of time, I have also seen that they start trusting their lawyers more than their family members, and this is only possible if we maintain confidentiality and act with total integrity and fairness. Every lawyer in the firm has a duty to quote his or her client, to the opponent's advocate, and also to their colleagues to be courteous, sincere, diligent, and honest, to uphold the nobility, reputation, and dignity of the profession. I am confident that with its new center, SILF would help and teach young lawyers of their duty towards this profession, court, and society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I must admit that integrity, confidentiality, and many more keywords that you've shared with your powerful thoughts, and I'm sure we've all benefited a lot with your words that you've shared with us this evening. On that note, as we march ahead from one legal luminary to the next, may I please invite Dr. Sudhir Ravindran, co-chair SILF Southern Region, and also the founder of Altasir Global, a leading Indian law firm, to please share his thoughts with the gathering.
Good evening to the Honorable Chief Justice of India, distinguished guests, Shri K.K. Venugopal and Shri Fali S. Narayanan, and fellow members of the Society of Indian Law Firms. What is the importance of this event and why a coffee table book? As we all know, books play different roles, and the most important amongst them is that books serve the purpose of being an archival tool. The King's College, Cambridge, aptly state the importance of archives. I quote, "Archives are important because they provide evidence of activities and tell us more about individuals and institutions. They tell us stories. They also increase our sense of identity and understanding of cultures. They can even ensure justice," unquote. Books that documents events at the precise time of the events happening and by participants or witnesses of those events serve as a primary source of future research and make them unique. The essence of documenting history in a manner that millennials can relate to is often challenging, and coffee table books help in this endeavor. Coffee table books are insightful pieces that give a broad perspective into the works it features, yet are beautiful, powerful, and inspiring. Such is the magic of coffee table books. This coffee table book on the members of the Society of Indian Law Firms to celebrate the Society's 20th year is without doubt a unique proposition. It carries with it the spirit of the featured firms who in their own way have also contributed to nation building. My personal appreciation to Lalit Bhushan Ji, who has relentlessly worked to make this coffee table book a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for those beautiful words there. What is life, after all, but an amalgamation of different stories? And what are we, after all, but storytellers? And as you said, you put that book to the coffee table book and brought about its importance in a very beautiful manner. Thank you once again, sir. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's also march ahead as we look forward to our next legal luminary to share his thoughts. We're also joined by one of the leading lawyers in India, Mr. V. Lakshmi Kumaran, Managing Partner, Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan, India, who in fact has been lending his expertise as a mentor at SILF. So may I please invite you, sir, to share your expertise and your thoughts with all of us.
Thank you. My Lord, Mr. Justice Ramana, and Mr. K.K. Venugopal, Attorney General for India, and my good friend Fali. It's a pleasure to be with you in the evening, and I know my Lord Justice is looking at the watch to study the file for tomorrow. He spared the time today. We are grateful to you, sir. I had the privilege of appearing for you while in Delhi High Court as also in the Supreme Court. What I would like to say is that encouragement which you give to the junior lawyers to express their arguments, the encouragement which you give is phenomenal. Thank you, sir. Sir, I must tell you one thing, that whenever a foreign investor comes in India, The first question is asking is about taxes and how long will the tax litigation will take to come to a conclusion. I have no answer to give. I can say about a decade or maybe about 15 years. Sir, way back in 2017, the then Chief Justice of India constituted a special bench consisting of Justice Sikri and Mr. Rohinton Nariman for disposing of tax cases. And in a matter of about 7 months, they disposed of more than 600 cases, final disposal. Maybe a thing like this may be useful if you can just constitute a bench to dispose of those matters. It can bring in a lot of foreign investments into the country. This alone, it can change the investment climate in India. And as far as I do not know, my friend philosopher and guide, my friend Mr. KKV, we call him his boss. I must share a secret with all of you that myself and Mr. KKV went on a trip to North Pole in the 2018 June. For about 15 days, we were in a ship. We were treading on the ice blocks and the sheet of ice and actually touched the North Pole and came back. It was a memorable experience for me along with him. And also my friend Mr. Fali, I used to have lunch with him almost daily in the Supreme Court during the lunchtime when we had to finish the arguments and then continue the argument in the afternoon. He's always, his wits and the way of expression is always thing. This COVID has actually separated us. Hopefully, after some time, we will have the same benefit of his humor during the lunchtime. I think I stop here at this point of time. And then, Lalit, now hand over the mics to you and then for the next conducting of the other proceedings. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. In fact, the story of the North Pole, and I'm sure for another day, all the attendees, everybody would love to hear the story and know more about all your experiences as well. But thank you very much, sir, for your riveting thoughts. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we in fact have the august presence of our guest of honor, who has been recognized as the lawyer of the millennium. Well, yes, ladies and gentlemen, may I kindly invite Mr. Fali S. Nariman, President Emeritus, the Bar Association of India, to please share his valuable thoughts with all of us this evening.
Thank you. Chief Justice of India, Attorney General of India, Mr. K.K. Venugopal, President of SILF, Mr. Lalit Bhasin, Vice President Zia Modi, Associate President Jyoti Sagar, and all other speakers, office bearers, and members of SILF. At the beginning, we were all assured that this would be a virtual event. It was only later that we were requested to show at the start the book which is yet to be released. And to show the book to one and all, one had to lift it. I confess, Chief Justice, that I lifted it with great difficulty. And I am now confident that I qualify for the weightlifting competition in the next Olympics. But flippant remarks apart, and seriously speaking, Chief Justice, this is a memorable occasion for all members of the Society of Indian Law Firms, especially those who figure in the book, which is so beautifully presented and so richly illustrated. Besides, having it released at the hands of the head of the Indian judiciary dignifies the occasion and gives it an added fillip. As the pictorial presentation shown earlier testifies, I happened to be present at the founding of this society 2 decades ago. And so I'm in the position of some sort of founding uncle. And it is given to uncles to unburden themselves of words of advice. And in my avuncular role, I would like to remind all members of SILF, as I have in the book itself, of the lawyer's proper place in society. It was more than 75 years ago, way back in 1946, that a great American lawyer, John Davis, addressing the Association of the Bar of the City of New York, stressed who lawyers were and what they did. What he said 75 years ago is equally relevant today. And let me quote what he said. True, we build no bridges. We raise no towers. We construct no pictures. There is little of all that we do which the eye of man can see. But we smooth out difficulties. We relieve stress. We correct mistakes. We take up other men's burdens. And by our efforts, we make possible the peaceful life of men in a peaceful state. I submit that that is the image that each member of this society must strive to achieve, to make possible in this conflict-ravaged, disease-ridden world, the peaceful life of men and women in a peaceful state. And at the end, let me add what my friend from the North Pole observed. I too, in the few years of my existence left, wish to rejoin the lunch table in the Supreme Court of India, and we look forward to the time when we are no longer in virtual mode. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm sure all of us have had some wonderful takeaways from your words of wisdom that you've shared with us this evening. Thank you once again, sir. On that beautiful note, ladies and gentlemen, I now have the delight in welcoming our guest of honor, who's been a pillar of strength to the entire legal community. Ladies and gentlemen, may I please request Shri K.K. Venugopal, Attorney General of India, to please address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Honorable Chief Justice of India, Justice N.V. Ramana, Fali S. Nariman, Lalit Basi, and friends. I will start with a note of apology. My voice has suddenly given way. It has been a chronic problem, and I wish I had Fali Nariman's stentorian voice, but unfortunately it's not so. I remember when I was enrolled as a lawyer in January of 1954 in Chennai, there were only 2 or 3 law firms in Madras, as it was then known. And they were manned by English lawyers as well as Indian lawyers. This appeared to be the position in Mumbai as well as in Kolkata, the presidency towns. And today, there are, in the SILF alone, over 100 lawyers, law firms, and many more which are outside the SILF. Now, I believe that it was in 1990 when India adopted a liberalized economy that law firms started burgeoning. Vast opportunities arose in the fields of foreign investment, arbitration, capital markets, mergers and acquisitions, etc. It is a creation of the Society of Indian Law Firms, or SILF, which is the vision of one person, no less than Dr. Lalit Bazin, and his dream of unifying these over 100 law firms into one single powerful entity, which has resulted in this SILF coming into existence. There is no end to the benefits that can be derived from this cooperation, not only by the law firms themselves, but the lawyers community as a whole, and as well as the litigating public. Today, I find from the statistics that so far as in 2018, the Indian legal market was worth an estimated 1.3 billion US dollars, or approximately 8,000 crores. And according to the Bar Council of India, there are as many as 1.3 million Indian lawyers. Law is a chosen field for many bright young students. We have, as members of the SILF alone, 100 law firms, or more than 100. And therefore, what Lalit Bazin has achieved is something which I should say is remarkable. Yet even in this celebratory moment, I must strike a sobering note. In a recent speech in Harvard Law School, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud had this to say: the corporate legal sector must realize, and this is in quotes, that national networks of legal service providers, including NGOs, are unable to meet the needs of India's disadvantaged population today, and most organizations face significant resource constraints. The legal profession, in that sense, cannot live in ignorance of the reality of India, a burgeoning population and a society that is characterized by massive inequalities and injustice. These disparities were thrown into even sharper relief this last year. The world was gripped by a devastating pandemic, the length and the scale of which have not been seen in modern times. What is truly sad is that COVID-19 has not spared even the legal profession, with many lawyers being plunged into serious economic crisis. The disparities alluded to by the Honorable Judge have become visible even within our own legal profession. Particularly affected are the young and less established lawyers. But even larger firms have been forced to cut back, reducing staff and putting payments on hold. I was happy to see that many of the bar associations have announced ex gratia payments to lawyers who are facing financial difficulties due to the pandemic. The support given to those lawyers who were adversely affected by the disruptions caused by COVID-19 were made possible in part also through the generous donations of many senior advocates, as well as by the members of the SILF. I think it is important that the members of SILF too think on the lines of what can be done to give back to the profession in this hour of need. Perhaps many have done so as well at an individual level. The form of financial assistance need not necessarily be limited to a provision of ex gratia payments, but could even be in terms of augmenting access to technological resources such as computers, tablets, or even law books. Apart from providing financial assistance, one of the main areas where I believe that the organized body of law firms of assistance is in providing technology training to other sections of the bar. In the times of COVID-19, we have turned almost entirely to virtual hearings, soft copies of pleadings, and a digital working environment. While this transition was no doubt difficult for law firms, it was nothing short of traumatic so far as the vast majority of litigating bar,
Address.
the courts themselves were concerned.
Email.
It's no secret that the level of technological proficiency possessed by lawyers who are part of law firms, such as those who are members of SILF, would be higher than many of the lawyers who practice in this courts. Much like the webinars organized by firms on a range of legal topics, the thought could be given to making available skill training in the use of digital tools relevant to the legal profession. Today, we do not know if there will ever be a time in the future where we will completely outlive our dependence on technology. In fact, I would say that it seems likely that our dependence will only increase, as perhaps it should. The situation that we find ourselves in is unprecedented. As Justice Ramana, the Honorable Chief Justice of India, said recently, the work of ensuring complete justice as aspired to under the Constitution can never be said to be completed. The mandate of our Constitution is to work tirelessly to surpass our own expectations, to make India a country wherein rights are cherished and which sets an example for other countries to follow. The responsibility of ensuring that justice does not grind to a halt is one that I believe falls upon us to share equally as members of the legal profession. I congratulate SILF and its members for completing this milestone of 20 years, and thank my friend Lalit Basi for providing us with a platform on which we can discuss these issues of importance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for those illuminating thoughts that you've shared with us, especially to also do with how the law firms managed to pivot or transition with these unprecedented changes. Thank you once again, sir. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I now humbly request our chief guest for the day to please address the gathering. In fact, as we all know, he's not just a multifaceted personality, but is also regarded for some of the landmark judgments that have been rendered by him and authoring path-breaking judgments in tax, constitution, arbitration, human rights, and criminal law. Ladies and gentlemen, may I please kindly request Honorable Chief Justice of India, Shri N.V. Ramana, to please share his valuable words with us all.
Mr. K.K. Venugopal, Attorney General of India, Fali S. Nariman, President Emeritus, the Bar Association of India, Mr. Lalit Basi, President of SILPI, Ms. Jia Modi, Mr. Jyoti Sagar, Mr. Cyril Sharif, Chairperson, SILPI, Mr. N.G. Kaitan, Dr. Sudhir Ravindran, Mr. V. Lakshmi Kumaran, Ms. Neena Gupta, Ms. Sanjay Sethi, ladies and gentlemen, and advocates and members of the legal fraternity. A very good evening to all. I am very glad to be in the company of legal legends today. At the outset, I would like to congratulate Dr. Lalit Basi and the Society of Indian Law Firms for releasing this coffee table book. This book, in highlighting the practice areas, business sectors, clients and activities of more than 100 members law firms of SILPI with over 3,000 lawyers, truly reflects the growth of Indian law firms and the Indian law over the years. I remember there was once a time when, although it was very easy to obtain a law degree, it was extremely challenging to have a livelihood out of the same. During my graduation days, people used to ask when we joined in law colleges, why are you studying law? Did you not get any employment elsewhere? Or do you not want to get married? For a first generation lawyer, sustainable practice in the courts was a dream which was rarely realized. Therefore, it was often considered as a degree of last resort. Speaking from personal experience, due to lack of resources, most of us learned while practicing. I am not sure if the present day reality is any different. The truth is that there still exists inequity in opportunities for lawyers. More than 3 decades ago, with the economic liberalization of India, the legal landscape also underwent drastic change. With the growth in business and investments, there was increasing demand of lawyers with a specialized knowledge in the arena of business and corporate law. Ever since then, the growth of Indian legal landscape has been in synchronization with the macroeconomic growth of India. India is witnessing unprecedented growth of commercial law advisory relating to an influx of foreign capital. This has to lead to the growth of practice areas which would have otherwise been unheard before liberalization. Practice areas such as mergers, acquisitions, project finance, structured finance, corporate insolvency, capital markets have assumed a great significance in the past 2 decades. Today, Indian law firms are on the same footing as their global counterparts. Many Indian law firms have established themselves as a one-stop solution for all legal problems. They advise clients over a wide ambit of issues, from regulatory practice to dispute resolution, white-collar crimes to IPR, labor laws, finance laws, etc., etc. Like a multi-specialty hospital. These law firms cater to the diverse needs of their clients. It is only leads to a reduction in cost and time, but also ensure a holistic approach for one's legal needs. At the same time, there is also an increasing trend of law firms becoming known for their high level of specialization. Often, their partners are known as the top experts in their respective fields who can provide a focused solution. The advice and the strategies formulated by law firms have far-ranging impacts on the issues of environment, employment, and labor law. The firms enable entrepreneurs and business houses to make their ideas a reality. Admittedly, despite the pandemic in 2020, India recorded over 350 mergers and acquisition deals worth of $37.5 billion. The cross-border deal activities recorded over 140 transactions with deal values worth of $21 billion. Moreover, 2020 saw record private equity deals making activity in India with investments worth of $40 billion. That is 28% higher than the previous record witnessed in 2019. In the year 2019, there are only 950 deals. There is no denying that the law firms have been in the forefront of Indian economy. While laws and regulations are the backbone of an economy, a well-functioning legal service sector ensures that they are properly implemented. The firms across India are constantly advising and assisting several investors and business houses to comply with the extensive and complex regulatory mechanism. Such commitment to regulatory framework is not only saves the clients from unnecessary legal costs and minimizes their risk in transaction. After all, prevention is better than cure. I am glad the SILF and its members have constantly endeavored to increasingly fulfill their social commitments. I would like to suggest that this forum is the best place to formalize new policies and build new commitments. Thank you, Ms. Jia Modi, for your kind offer to assist the court and share your expertise. We can definitely gain from your assistance. And I will ask the registry of the court to be in touch with you, your office. A significant aspect that Indian law firms need to consider is their community outreach. The prevailing perception is that law firms are only for the service of rich men. There exists misconception among the people, even among lawyers who practice in the courts, that activities of the law firms do not relate to the society. The need of the hour is to remove such perception. Internationally, law firms are taking up several social causes and actively engaging in providing justice to these needy. I urge you all to take up more and more pro bono cases and reach out those who are inhibited from reaching us. When it comes to fulfilling our constitutional aspirations, we all must do our bit. It is a well-known fact that law firms provide economic mobility for first-generation law graduates who otherwise would have struggled within the system of litigation practice. These opportunities have opened avenues for fresh graduates. Moreover, the lucrative pay package that is being offered by law firms have incentivized pursuing law as a career. However, often we hear issues about lack of diversity within law firms. Major law firms tend to go to only Tier 1 cities and select universities for recruitment. In this process, many young talented lawyers, despite their interest and willingness, are left out of the process. There are diamonds in the rough everywhere. I would like to urge to all you to take up initiatives to ensure inclusivity and realize full potential of our human resources. After all, diversity brings wide-ranging opinions to the table. A diverse team can provide more equitable and holistic solutions. Talking of diversity, law firms must focus on retaining more women lawyers by incorporating necessary institutional changes. Some of the best lawyers in our country, legal history have been from small towns and villages. Traditional legal practices, with all its barriers, have still given space to young legal aspirants to make their mark in their regional legal sphere. The law firm fraternity is the next phase of the great Indian legal project. While we are aiming to compete with the best international firms, we must not forget to look inward as well. Law firms need specific requirements with respect of training, acumen, and drive. Although drive and aspirations are abundant in Tier 2 and Tier 3 towns and cities and villages, the question then arises how to train future and present lawyers to adapt to the changing nature of our profession. Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities are becoming hubs of commercial activities. This would necessarily lead to transactions and disputes. Law firms must find local talent to handle these clients. Law firm training camps can be set up in the regional law colleges and schools to prepare future lawyers and find talent. Scholarship system will help find young law aspirants who cannot afford prime education and have to settle for alternatives. Steps can be taken to actively seek competitive ways to find talent, specifically in regional law schools. Lastly, an area in which law firms need to pay a particular attention to this is the impact of ethics and in their practice. We all are custodians of a very rich tradition. We must pursue our chosen path with utmost integrity. The future of the legal profession in this country is dependent on the change in our attitudes. It is high time for us to widen our horizons and create an inclusive, fair, competitive platform for young graduates. Let me thank once again the organizers, Dr. Latif Basir and Mr. Sanjay Sethi, who is the publisher of this coffee table book, and I'm very happy to sit, of course, in the digital platform between two legal luminaries, Mr. Venugopal as well as Fali, after so many days. And I'm glad I heard Fali's voice after so many months. And I wish you a very healthy, long life, Mr. Fali and Mr. Venugopal. We have to guide this Indian judiciary and the legal systems in this country. Thank you, all of you, once again giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing not just such powerful words, but also endearing words with all of us. Thank you once again, and most importantly, for your valuable presence with us this evening. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure all of you are waiting for the moment, which is to do with the unveiling of the coffee table book. So if I may please request our honorable chief guest, Shri N.V. Ramana, to please unveil the SILF coffee table book.
रैपिंग कैसे हुई है सिंपल उल्टा
Well, I do believe that while the platform is virtual, the applause is absolutely real. On that note,
Mr. K.K. Venugopal.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, my Lord the Chief Justice. It was a pleasure to receive Thank you very much.
Please receive this book. Please don't lift. It's okay.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Shri N.V. Ramana has also handed over a copy of the book to Shri Venugopal as well as to Shri Nariman. So on that note, that was the official unveiling of the coffee table book. And while we're almost coming towards the end of the program, I must also inform all the SILF members that a copy of the book will be sent across to all of you as well. But while this is a crisp yet a momentous program, I may also please take a moment to invite the co-chair SILF for Delhi region, Ms. Neena Gupta, to please present the vote of thanks for this evening.
Thank you. Honorable Chief Justice of India, Shri N.V. Ramana, Mr. K.K. Venugopal, Attorney General for India, respected Mr. Fali S. Nariman, President Emeritus, the Bar Association of India, Dr. Lalit Bhasin, President, Society of Indian Law Firms, worthy officers, office bearers, and members of SILF, Mr. Sanjay Sethi, the publisher of the book, and my dear colleagues at the bar. All good things come to an end, and so does this great event of release of a book, which has beautifully captured the legal life of this country. It is not a book to be only adorned on a coffee table, but a book which would make history for our future generation lawyers. It is a book which carries with it the weight of Indian law firms and wisdom of the lawyers who have been instrumental in making and running the law firms in a manner efficiently and competitively to bring the Indian legal system on the international platform. I take this opportunity to thank all those who have been responsible in adding golden pages to this book. Our special thanks to the Honorable Chief Justice of India, Honorable Mr. Justice N.V. Ramana, who has been kind enough to find time to release this book and make this function most memorable. His Lordship's address was very thought-provoking, profound, and brilliant. We are grateful to His Lordship for sharing his pearls of wisdom with all of us. Mr. K.K. Venugopal, our evergreen Attorney General, is extended our special gratitude. We extend our special thanks to Mr. F.S. Nariman, Senior Advocate, who is the lawyer of the millennium. He has contributed the foreword for the book. These dignitaries today have given that special touch to the book, which I am sure will create the magic of adding more volumes to this book in future. Society of Indian Law Firms, known as SILF, was the brainchild of head of some firms who conceived this idea 20 years back of bringing together the family of law firms under the same roof and on the international page. With the release of this book, SILF is celebrating its 20th birthday, and therefore I cannot end my vote of thanks without thanking Ms. Zia Modi, Mr. Jyoti Sagar, Mr. Cyril Shroff, Mr. N.G. Khaitan, Mr. Sudhir Ravindran, our mentor, Mr. V. Lakshmi Kumaran, and SILF President, Dr. Lalit Bhasin. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Mr. Sanjay Sethi of Roots and Shoots, the publisher of this book, who has brought out this beautiful coffee table book, which is meticulously compiled in a record time. In the end, our very special thanks to Kavya, who has anchored today's program with a great deal of precision and effectiveness. With this, we close today's glorious function. My best wishes to all of you. Stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you and namaskar.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for those beautiful closing remarks. And as you said, it indeed is an evening of inspiration and celebrations. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end, once again, I'd like to humbly thank our Honorable Chief Guest, Shri N.V. Ramana, along with our guests of honor, Shri K.K. Venugopal and Shri Fali S. Nariman, along with all the dignitaries for joining us this evening. On that inspiring note, it's time to sign off. It's time for me, Kavya Chavli, to sign off, wishing you all to stay safe and having a great week ahead. Thank you once again. Take care. Goodbye.